great.
Today on Midlife Conversations, I've got a really great treat for you because I've got Barton Scott here. Now, not only is he my good friend, so selfishly, I always love to talk to him and interview him and have him talk with you, but he's also a biochemist. He's an inventor. He's a behavioral nutritionist, an international speaker, and even more importantly, he is the founder and CEO of Upgraded Formulas. And he is my go to expert when it comes to mineral deficiency. And we're going to get into what that means for you today because we're going to be talking about sleep. We're going to be talking about anxiety. We're going to be talking about lack of mental clarity. Now, these are three of the biggest complaints I get from midlife women. So stay tuned. We got a great episode ahead for you. Thank you so much for being here, Barton. I always love
Oh,
talking with you.
so fun to be back here with you. And I love that this can be a catch up because we have a lot of new things to talk about.
We do. So first and foremost, how do I know Barton? Well, we met in Maui. Gosh, was it 3 years ago now?
I think so.
Probably three
Yeah.
years ago. One of our good friends, Lee, she curated a bunch of friends to go visit her in Maui. What we didn't realize is she was like literally curating us together because she knew we'd all be friends. So I met Barton in this little friend pod that Lee introduced us. And we had some pretty deep conversations and a lot of fun on that trip. But one of the things that got me really interested in what Barton does is we were talking a lot about sleep. Now, I had just recently started tracking my sleep with an Aura ring. And I had noticed at the time, and gosh, Barton still has a
I
screenshot of
remember
this.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, I was getting like 5 minutes of deep sleep and a lot of REM sleep. Like I was dreaming. REM sleep's when you
Right.
dream and a lot of that. I thought, oh, well, because I'm creative. But I couldn't understand why I would sleep like 10 hours and I would be so tired. And I remember
Yeah.
showing you that Aura ring where I was like, I've got
hmm
5 minutes. And what'd you say to me?
I remember saying like, wow, how are you doing all the things you're doing with this amount of sleep? Like I would expect you to be a mess. Like you've got all these things together. I mean, I can't imagine. I think what
Hmm.
I said too is like I can't imagine what's going to happen when we get you some quality deep sleep. And I remember the stat to this day. It was like 11 and a half. You're like, this is my normal. It's 11 and a half hours of time in bed.
Hmm.
So like essentially 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. or 8 to 8 or 7 to 7, whatever it is, you're going to bed super early trying to
Yep.
get sleep. Which usually by itself is really good. That and the earlier you go to bed, usually the better you sleep in terms of quality, but it still wasn't working for you. And I know so many people are that way. And it was your average, I remember, it was 16 minutes specifically of deep sleep a night then, and a lot of REM. And we're
Yep.
able to shift that in like 5 nights to an hour, almost right under 2 hours, an hour and 51
So
minutes in 5 nights. It was
And how did he
wild.
shift that? He didn't give me any kind of like secret meditate, even though Barton is very calming and I'm not a calming person, but you are, he's very calming. So he was just calming personality, but he gave me a pill. Like you literally gave me a magic pill. You're like, take
Literally,
this
yeah.
magnesium. And I was like, I already take magnesium. You're like, no, 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 take this magnesium. So he slipped me a
Yeah.
pill. He slipped me a pill.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it changed my deep sleep. And full transparency, you all, I like kind of forgot. Like I'm just being real. Like I used your magnesium for
Yeah.
a while. I kind of forgot. I
So
get all
gentle.
kinds of, I have all kinds of magnesium. I'm like, I forget. And sure
Mm.
enough, I'm noticing my deep sleep again, starting to slip and all the things. And then Barton reaches out and I'm like, oh, guilty. I have not been using your magic magnesium.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking a
It's
lot about, we're going to be getting into more of that, like why and like what you've taught me about anxiety and mental clarity and all the things. But I want to
Mhm.
go back a little bit because before you ever even knew you were going to be a founder of Upgraded Formulas, before this was even a thing, you didn't know you were doing this. You were just like the science nerd, right? This
Yeah.
was your thing.
I
Can you tell
love
us
nutrition. Yeah. Yeah.
tell us what happened? Like what happened that got you
Well,
super interested in this?
so I was really close with both my parents. I was lucky with that, but the trade-off is they were older, and my mom was starting to get pretty sick, even though she was otherwise healthy. It seemed like she was in her 60s, so still relatively, I would say, very young. And she had retired, low stress job, and medication led to surgery, and surgery just kept leading in the wrong direction. And I was thinking, like, here's a woman I'm just watching the vitality drain out of her, and she was just like one of the more memorable people that I think a lot of people would have ever met if they met her. And someone like everyone seemingly loved, very wise. I mean, such a, a loss of wisdom when people like that die young, just subjectively. And I remember thinking I can be at peace with that, with her passing on, but there's still something that's fundamentally wrong or missing. And we had discovered I also became a nutritionist, and I was on my way to becoming a nutritionist at this time, and I was studying chemical engineering, and I finished in chemical engineering. And the last couple of years were tough because I also had a total lack of what we're talking about here, which was brightness, mental brightness or mental clarity, the ability to just look at something, read it, remember it while doing other things, like that sort of flow state that I used to have often. I was rereading things, and like, I mean, engineering texts are possibly the most difficult to understand things on the planet because super high level math, high level chemistry, high level physics. Um, I literally chose that degree because I heard it was the toughest thing I could study, and I wanted to be able to grasp like literally anything for the rest of my life. And so I started using that understanding to apply it, and I'm applying it to nutrition to better understand nutrition because I realized really quickly. So I'd been a wrestler and I wrestled for 10 years. I played football both ways, all these different things. I had a lot of deficiencies, concussions, all sorts of things coming in. I was like by no means like a clean sort of starting point when I
Mm-hmm.
started having these issues. But what I'm really saying here is that just like with anxiety, and like you talked about me being very calm now, um, that is completely based on the nutrient deficiencies you either have or don't have. So I can take someone's diet, and if I had full control and I wanted to, which I'd never want to, and stripped out certain nutrients from their diet, I could
Mm-hmm.
make them anxious in a matter of days.
Wow. Okay. Okay. I'm going to dive into this here because this is right. This is like perfect timing. I swear, like you come into my life at the perfect timing. First, I got busted for not using your magnesium and my deep sleep's not doing well. That's the first thing. But the other thing is
We'll ship some out. Yeah.
what I've been experiencing a lot lately is that anxiety feeling. And for those of you that are not sure if you're experiencing anxiety, to me, I describe it as it feels like you've had caffeine, but you haven't.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot in my business or when I'm super busy or overwhelmed, like right now going back and forth
Mm.
San Diego
Hmm.
and Arizona,
Flying a lot.
yeah, like I feel it and it feels literally like I've had too much caffeine, even though I've had none. And if I don't go and just do a ton of cardio or do like it just fills in me. And
Mm.
that I know is anxiety. And it's like this, I describe it as I just want to shut my brain off. So many women in midlife navigate that. If I were to go to a doctor, a Western medicine doctor, they would say, here's Xanax. And I'm not doing that.
Exactly. They
So,
would shut their brain off. What so many people would, and that's not the path, right? The path is figuring out something that I really like saying is symptoms are our allies. Symptoms are our friends. So that anxiety could turn into a full-blown mental breakdown for someone if they don't address it.
mhm.
And addressing it is not medication because just really simply, this is not an opinion at all. This is like we're looking at hard facts here. Like we're all familiar with gravity, right? You let go of something, you for sure are confident that it's going to hit the floor. The periodic table is the same way. And what we're talking about is elements. We're talking about magnesium. We're talking about lithium. We're talking about, which is not a drug, but an
Mhm.
actual element. And then at super high doses, they consider that a drug. So you can also apply that to super high doses of magnesium, or if you're absorbing it really well, you don't need as much. But any other mineral, selenium, all these different things are therapeutic for us. And when we're missing them, it's like gravity. It's like stepping off your balcony and not understanding gravity. Like you're surprised that you hit the ground, you know? Um, so anyway, I didn't want to interrupt. You're on something really
No,
great
but so
idea.
like let's talk about that because that makes sense that symptoms are allies. So like I know that I'm intelligent enough to know like okay, this is not normal, this isn't good.
Sure,
And the answer is
totally.
not a Xanax. And I can't go just run 2 hours a day. Like that would be amazing, but I don't have all that time.
Right.
So
But what do I
what
do? Right.
right.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people suck it up to it's perimenopause, it's menopause, it's aging, it's stress, it's whatever. what is typically lacking in our nutrition or in our
Mm,
supplements? What is that when you found that is typically lacking, and what do we do about it?
mm. Yeah, one of the things that's lacking is magnesium, like we're talking about. We're talking about lithium being missing. We're talking about minerals that control blood sugar, both different trace minerals, but also specifically large doses of chromium are usually needed to restore that. But you have to absorb it because virtually every chromium product we've ever tested is around 5% or less absorbed in our lab. So, looking at how do we actually, because why does absorption matter for people
Mhm.
that aren't as into nutrition? Well, absorption matters because if it's not what you put in your mouth, it's what gets absorbed, and that matters because if you can't reverse the deficiency by absorbing it, which is the only way to actually reverse it, then you are stuck with the deficiency of that thing, which what I clarify for people that it seems like waving a magic wand is I understand all the interactions of these nutrients, of these elements that are, again, just what build the entire planet. And that's not up
Mhm.
for grabs. So we all agree on that. And that's what builds our hair. So we test our hair to see what is missing. And then that gives us this path of, oh, okay, that's what's wrong. And by reversing that, if I absorb it, I reverse it, and then the symptom goes away because the problem, the underlying dysfunction is not there. The cells are happy.
So I want to back up a little bit because I want to make sure I'm following and that anyone
Yeah.
listening is following. So if I hear you correctly, it's we want to figure out what's missing. So typically when someone's described anxiety, you're seeing a trend that it could be chromium, lithium, magnesium as three main things that could be missing. And it's not that people don't think they're getting it, like they might be taking a random supplement with those things,
Mm,
but they might not be absorbing it. So
mm,
if I'm hearing you correctly, the best way to know if you're absorbing it is not a blood test or a urine test, or it's an actual hair test because that
mm.
shows if your body's been absorbing it. Did I explain that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It could be other things like copper as well. And that's a larger conversation around iron and how you might have iron overload, even if, and this might be a life-changing soundbite for someone. I know it is. With your audience, there's plenty of people, women and men, that are told that they have iron anemia and they actually have iron overload. And the
Mm,
reason why, and this goes to the fact of why you want to test hair is tissue, just like skin is tissue. We might think of it differently. It doesn't matter how you think of it. It's actually very similar. And you looking now, you have long hair. Even for a guy, I have fairly long hair. So, if I'm looking at the hair 6 inches down from my head, that's no longer accurate. But the half inch close to the scalp is very recent, very accurate. It's the last
mhm.
6 weeks or so. But in the case of something like iron, iron can be, this is from scientific literature, up to 10 times higher in the tissue, and yet no medical doctor and a normal and I never want to come down too hard on doctors because most of them went to school for the right reason,
Sure.
and they just like the curriculum is what's wrong, not the person. And so, but they are for sure, again, not opinion, being taught other things besides this. And so what we're seeing, whether it's them or a uninformed nutritionist or anyone else that means well but doesn't essentially do well by helping the person, what they're misdiagnosing is they don't understand that iron can be 10x higher in the tissue. So if you're iron anemic in blood, that doesn't really mean much. The body can be dumping it out of your blood and putting it in your tissue. Meanwhile, people are going gray faster. So if you want to go gray very slowly, which is just a sign of the body running out of energy, which can be caused by iron overload or copper deficiency or
Mhm.
manganese deficiency, all of which we look at in the hair test, because it actually shows blood is really, just as a aside, really the last place you're going to see a deficiency show up because the body needs to work really hard at maintaining the blood to be perfect. Otherwise, organs start shutting down. So the body
Okay.
will actually pull from your reserves So it's like a checking account and a savings account. The blood is like this checking account. It's pulling from the savings account because there's not enough in the checking account. And then pretty soon that's fine until what happens? There's nothing in the savings account. And that's how people have bone disease. They have all sorts of skin issues. They have gut issues. They can't focus. They're chronically
Hmm.
tired. They've gone gray either rapidly all at once or over time. And for sure, people may go, "Oh, I have plenty of energy, even though I have gray hair." You're just pulling on those reserves. That's how that
That
happens.
makes
And
sense.
again, that is not an opinion. That's just a poorly understood truth.
Yeah.
So
So that
yeah.
makes sense. So a hair test is one of is the best way in your opinion to see what's
Hmm.
actually really going on with these things. Now,
Totally.
if you so
Yeah.
when someone's experiencing something like anxiety, and I want to talk through all these things. I want to go back and talk about sleep and mental clarity in a minute, but like
Hmm.
anxiety specific, let's just use that as an example. Someone's experiencing that, they feel what I'm talking about, that feels like they're on caffeine, but they're not, and it's like
Hmm.
that anxious feeling.
It's a great
They,
description. Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's literally because I used to think that
Yeah.
I used to think, what did I have that had caffeine? And I'm like, I didn't have caffeine. It's anxiety. That's what it
Hmm.
feels like. You've probably
Yeah.
never experienced anxiety, Barton. You're so calm. I'm like, have you ever actually experienced it?
I
Um,
used to all the time when I had magnesium deficiency as an
really,
athlete, as a student. My personality was different. I was stressed all the time. Yeah,
really. Wow.
yeah,
Okay,
totally
because you're
different
like the most
person.
calm person.
Thank
I
you.
think calm. I think of you. You're like just calm.
Yeah. And
Um,
I do meditate and everything, but if I had a magnesium deficiency, you would know about it. You go, "What's wrong? Like, you're not like, wow." And you
wow.
don't, and you also like your skin doesn't look good and as good or whatever. Like you would notice outer signs and
Wow.
how the person's personality is.
That's wild.
So, yeah.
So, okay, when somebody just goes and does like a Xanax or smokes marijuana or whatever they're doing to
CBD,
CBD to
anything.
stop that feeling,
Not that
um,
that's,
it's
yeah.
temporarily stopping it, which might have a glimpse of a benefit but long
Mhm.
term, you're not actually fixing the problem. Is that
So here's how I look at it, because that's a great way to say it. The way I would say it is, imagine you walk through your house and you come home and there's a bunch of lights on, and you
Mhm.
go, "That's strange. There shouldn't be lights on." And you just walk through the house and you turn all the lights off.
Okay?
And then the alarm system goes off and you turn that off. And then the smoke alarm goes off and you turn that off. And you go, "So strange." And then a few minutes later, you're dead. Like that's what we're talking about here.
Whoa, that's intense. So I get that. Like you're all these things you're just ignoring. Like, okay, I got this symptom. Let's shut that down. Let's get this. But then
That's
you're missing the whole problem that's happening. Wow, that's
yeah.
powerful.
We don't do
Ooh,
this on purpose, but this is what happens. And this is how
wow.
people die. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay,
Yeah.
so I get to fix my anxiety feeling
Yeah.
because that he scared
Totally.
me. Okay, so let's talk.
Totally.
You mentioned magnesium a few times. Now, this gets very confusing and I'm
I've
confused
never
about this.
I've also never given that metaphor before, but it's so
So
accurate.
good. It's
It's
so
so
good.
accurate.
I
Yeah.
love that. Okay, I want to talk about magnesium for a minute because it's very confusing and misleading because there's so many different
Hmm.
types of magnesium. And in all the marketing of every
Oh,
company, it's
right,
like,
right,
oh,
right.
I've got this and I've
Totally.
got that. And I'm confused
I
too.
can
Like, do
speak
you
to that.
need magnesium citrate? Do you need like ones to help you go to the
Right, right.
bathroom, ones to help you sleep? Can you help
Hmm.
us understand that?
Totally.
Like, and what's actually needed in magnesium? Like, what do we actually need and what don't we need?
Hmm. Yeah, so I'll make this really simple for people. I want you to think about how you get magnesium from food. And even if you have no nutritional background at all, I want you to ask yourself a question. Just use your intuition. Um, so if you think about it, do you think your body is asking for certain forms of magnesium every time you eat something? For example, this one crosses the blood-brain barrier, this one's good for muscles, or does the body do it some other way that maybe you don't understand, you're not aware of? So the answer pretty obviously for those of us that have nutrition concepts is that no, like whether we're talking about any element, the body's not going to go, "Oh, if you don't give me lithium, fill in the blank form of lithium or magnesium or potassium, um, then it won't work." Like that's kind of idiotic when you see it from this realm. What we've been taught over the last decade is we've been taught. So as a chemical engineer, I design processes first as a background, like the industrial process that builds the cars, for example. We designed that. We don't design like the rear view mirror of the car. We design the process that makes it so we can change the process and then change the outcome. What chemists do is they look at the outcome and they go, we can combine this outcome with other things, which is also cool. I also do that. And then doctors just go, oh, well, something's wrong. We need these things that exist out there. We need to put those together, or we need to, do drugs or whatever it is. Nutritionists look at supplements that are available and foods, and they just kind of deal with what's available. So as a chemical engineer, I was like, let's create something different that matches, that has biomimicry or bioharmony, um, with what the body's doing with food. So in every case, when you've heard a certain type of, let's take the example of magnesium, there's plenty of marketing out there that just says, and it's a great angle for
Hmm.
people to like, it's really hard to
I
like,
bought
oh,
into it. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, I need all these different kinds of
yeah,
magnesium.
totally. Because what is happening? So that's not the case, but what is the case is if you could absorb magnesium as the element, the body would just figure out how to do it, which by the way,
So,
magnesium becomes totally different things in the body because if you think about it, this is a large thought that most people have never heard. I've said this only a handful of times, but everything you eat, protein, fat, carbs, guess what it all is a collection of? It's all elements. It's nothing but elements. It's the periodic table. So so knowing that new concept would again ask your intuition, would it be smart to test for that regularly in a way that's reliable? And that to me is hair, because blood is not
mhm.
going to show you deficiency until it's way too late. Because the body is just meant to make the blood perfect, hence the word lifeblood. That's crucial. So, you want an
So,
approximation of the tissue, which hair is tissue, organs are tissue.
okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to keep going deeper here because
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
confused on
Mhm.
magnesium still. So like if you're
Sure.
eating a food that has magnesium in it, it
Right.
doesn't say the kind of magnesium, it's just magnesium. And you're saying your
Exactly.
body does with it what it needs. So
Exactly.
why with supplements have like some magnesium brands, they break down all the different types of magnesium. Like what
Totally.
and like because we don't do that with other vitamins or minerals. So I'm confused. Where did that
Yeah,
even come
so
from? And why do we think it's important?
so the we did it that way because we started looking at we had a poor manufacturing system. So what I was able to do is build a better manufacturing system that produces an outcome that's similar to digested food. A plasma of minerals is what we have, because I knew most people have a broken digestive system. They
Hmm.
have low stomach acid, they have candida, they have parasites,
Yep.
they have mold, they have a long
All the
list of
things.
problems in the gut. They have leaky gut because even if they're eating gluten-free, they're still occasionally getting glyphosate because, it was on the salad that wasn't organic, or,
Hmm.
whatever it is, jet fuel, like all these different things. Stress can cause leaky gut. It's not easy. If you're struggling with your health, it's not your fault. It's not easy, but hopefully everything we're talking about is going to majorly help. And I've seen that for people even getting off of pharmaceutical drugs, doing what we're talking
Hmm.
about. We use this hair analysis and these supplements as a guided thing where it's like you need to know the problem before you can address it. And then you need to check on that problem as it improves. Something else might happen and you address that. And you just get better and better over time. But the reason why we have multiple forms being taught is because what we had was one type of manufacturing system
Hmm.
that couldn't do what ours can, which is create a plasma out of minerals. So take pure magnesium, make a plasma out of it using nanotechnology equipment
Okay.
and practices like using electricity and voltage and in a way that you can do some of these things. So we've literally done a clinical trial on our magnesium product, and it's, to my knowledge, the only magnesium product on the market, by the way, that has a clinical trial, which is like double-blinded, placebo-controlled. People didn't know what they're taking. They saw up to,
So
we could
Barton,
talk about it later, but
so
a
basically,
huge
if you,
increase
so your
in sleep.
magnesium, your technology, the way that you're doing
Yeah.
it, is this, am I hearing this right? That's kind of like having it from food, and your body knows what to do with it because it's already broken down. Is that like the way you would use a digestive
Right.
enzyme with something? I know I'm
Yes.
oversimplifying, but is that
Sure. So yeah, so that's close. The only thing I would add to it is imagine there are, let's say, 100 steps or 10
Mhm.
steps, either way you look at it, of the digestive process. And then at that last step, the nutrients are ready to go into the bloodstream and they go in. And so what happens at that moment? That's what we're looking at, and that's what we're mimicking. And what we're seeing there is the particle size of the minerals of all these other types of, like, take these 5 forms or 7 forms, take this form is it's the best for sleep, or this is the and I mean, we did a clinical trial on sleep to prove that, hey, this is incredible. And if it works for that, it works for everything. Sleep
Mhm.
is, as a friend of mine said, the nature's ability and best attempt at immortality.
Mm.
That is what sleep is. It is us trying to reverse things. And we, if you can do that well, that means everything's working. So we did a sleep trial on this to show, and I mean, you saw the benefits of that right away. But yeah, I mean, it's gentle, so it's easy to not remember that, hey, this is the thing that really moved the needle.
So
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 we
when
changed the
someone's
particle size is really what we did,
so when
and made
someone
it.
says you need to have magnesium citrate and all these things, you're saying
Sure.
no, you just need a better process for magnesium. Like is that
Exactly.
okay?
Exactly. Yeah, that and every other element. Yeah, it's
Because
just
if
that,
you're taking something that has all like three different types or two different or whatever, you're saying you're probably not even absorbing those different things.
right, you're absorbing a portion of the 2 to 7 types of magnesium out there. So you'll see, like, just some marketing that says, oh, we have these 7 types and this one does this and this one. And you're like, that sounds great. The only problem is you're going to absorb about 20% of all of it. And that won't be enough
Mm,
to really reverse the deficiency. And that was the case that I had. And in my 20s, and my mother had in her 60s. My girlfriend at the time had, her mom, and then
wow.
her friend that was going through cancer in her late 20s had done a hair test, and we found basically an early version of what we offer today, in a much more streamlined, organized fashion. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. I mean, I had a degree in chemical engineering, and so, chemistry is something I study. I'll spend a lot of time with. Spend a lot of time with the periodic table. I was like, here we go. This is what I've been looking for. If we can, because I know you talk about root cause a lot, and think about that too. Just like with solving a problem in your business or your relationship, what is the root? Not this up here problem. What is
Hmm.
below that? And for nutrition, I realized, and health, I realized if we can solve the deficiency, we're we're a long way towards solving the
Okay.
problem.
So shortcut so far for if you're dealing with anxiety, hair tests could be a really great tool for you because you could start learning what is creating that,
Hmm.
what's lacking from that. And if you're dealing
Huge.
with sleep, which I'm going to switch back to, is I'm going to go back to what I learned from you 3 years ago, and I just got lazy with it because
Yeah.
I've been
We
taking
all
all the different
forget.
types of magnesium right now. So I'm going to go back to trying, doing this, and I'll track my deep sleep for people so they can actually see. Because that's
Yeah.
what got me like, whoa, this is crazy. This is a big change quickly. So,
Hmm.
so we'll track that again. Let's talk
Yeah.
about lack of mental clarity for a minute. What
Oh.
typically causes that? Because I hear this described a lot in midlife. It's I've got foggy head, or I can't focus, or all of a
Mm.
sudden people are diagnosing themselves with new ADD. And I'm like,
Hmm.
so there's all these different things. What
Hmm.
is that also a mineral deficiency? What's
It,
happening there?
it absolutely is, at the very least, in part, mineral deficiency. So I created a product a while ago that it has all these nutrients in it, but it can be any combination of these, and usually often it's all of these to some extent. So things like boron, manganese, which is,
Hmm.
something that helps the SOD pathway, and can help with thyroid function if you're cold all the time, like cold hands, cold feet, color in your hair. If you're losing that, you're
So if
probably
like we're all
low.
gray like me, can we reverse that?
Yeah, there's a large percentage of people that see an improvement in their hair.
Wow.
And along the way, so hair and skin, right? We remember that is just an outward reflection of how we're doing internally. Part of the reason why we value it is because it goes back to like the whole mating thing of like, well, if
Hmm.
someone has great skin, they're probably fertile. If they have great hair, they're also that increases the
Or they have
doesn't
hair
mean that
extensions. I mean, we
yeah,
don't know. We
exactly.
don't really know.
Totally. There's so many ways
There's
to
a lot.
get
That's the thing.
there's
It's trickery
dyeing.
now. We don't know. Like
Totally.
there's
Right. But
plastic surgery. I
if
don't
you're
know.
just on an island somewhere, with a
Okay.
bunch of people, you would see quickly the people, yeah, and they
Yeah.
most likely have other health issues, like their skin is not looking good, all these different things. So all of this is very, very connected, and it influences all of this. Like silica is essential also, and it's not something we make at the moment, but that's essential for keeping the structure of the face up, and tendons and tissues, and helping collagen work in the body, and all these different things. So there's a lot. I mean, there's just a lot
Mhm.
to it, and without testing, you just kind of never know. The other thing I would add to what you're saying around anxiety is something that had really helped someone super close to me who was on SSRIs, and that this is not advice or anything, although I would say talk with someone that understands the type of testing we do, which we also have if someone wants that. But she was able to get off of her SSRIs
Wow.
over time using upgraded mood. And that can't be advice for people, but that is a
What
story
is
that
in
she
upgraded
shared.
mood? What's the
So we
secret?
have some lithium, some chromium, some fulvic acid, some magnesium. Um,
Can people
and
take this stuff without doing a hair test? Like, can I, like, I have a
yeah,
bottle of
yeah,
upgraded mood. Can I just like
mhm,
pop some in before my next podcast? Am
yeah.
I gonna like, or is it like you have
People,
to take it over
people,
time, or how does that work?
no. So there's a great study. It's called the groundwater study, and they found in different parts of the US that had the lowest amounts of lithium in the groundwater, because most people are still drinking tap water. They found, and cooking with it, rinsing with it, bathing,
Hmm.
even though I have filters on everything, and then I just make sure I get the minerals. Um, because you have fluoride and fluorine and birth
Yep.
control and all sorts of things in the groundwater, and we're wondering like why people are having hormone issues, men and women. It's like people are mass dosed with like hormones in
Yeah.
in the supply now, estrogens, all sorts of things. um so they realized that lithium, when it was low in areas, that correlated to the same areas having the highest rates of anxiety, suicide, and depression.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So this is how nutrition becomes personality,
Yeah, that's wild. You know
and
what's funny
ultimately
about you? I was just
destiny.
remembering when I was hanging out with you in Hawaii. Like, okay, for those of you listening, like maybe your business is you do eyebrows and you start noticing everyone's eyebrows, or your business, you do hair, you
Mhm.
notice everyone's hair, or your fitness instructor, you notice everyone's butt. What Barton would do, you still do this probably. You would like talk to someone and you'd be like, they're deficient in blah, blah, blah. Like you could tell based on how fast they talk or what they're
Mhm.
doing, like what they're
The
deficient. You were
voice.
doing that to me. You told me what I was deficient in. You're like, just by
Wild.
knowing me for like 10 minutes, you're like, you talk fast, you are deficient in this.
Yeah, wild. So it's amazing. I mean, part of it is just like, you have a great mental processing speed, and that's part of it. But um
I do have a great
and
mental processing
you
speed. Thank you,
do.
Barton.
It's like there's so many different types of intelligence, and some people have very fluid, like fast
Hmm.
intelligence, like what you have, and I think it's awesome. And we need all types of people for sure. And it gets exacerbated in different directions
Yes.
when you have deficiency. And I think that's what you're talking about. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. I was
But
like, I
I've
barely know you, and you're telling me what I'm deficient in, but
it's
that's
like,
it's
and we'll
funny.
we'll prove it, and we'll see if I'm
Yeah.
wrong or right or what. And it's really fun. It's a fun thing. But I realized I got great at that because I used to do so many hair analyses, and I would be on the phone with someone, and I'd be
Mhm.
looking at their results, right? And talking
Right.
to them about what symptoms they're having, and like, oh, you're tired. Okay. Oh, okay. You don't have a lot of energy, and you're bloated all the time, and you feel anxious, and you're not sleeping well, and on and on and on and on. Your estrogen is this way, your testosterone is
Hmm.
this way, your progesterone is this way. You think you have iron toxicity, or I mean deficiency, you probably have iron toxicity, like we talked about earlier. You're, even so, go back and listen to that part too if you're hearing this for the first time, because it's not something you hear really
Yeah,
anywhere, unfortunately. Um, and definitely share that because so many people, I literally have to have a call later today with someone that's in the wellness space that doesn't understand this, and she has a big health podcast.
yeah,
And I won't mention any names, but it's interesting because I mean, you can look, doctors kill people all the time in hospitals. There's a
sure.
word for it, and it's one of the highest rates of death. And again, this is not to blame doctors. They're usually trying to do, they're almost always in it for the right reasons. It's the education system that's flawed and backwards.
Wow. So like I did a hair test with you a long time ago, like before I knew about my ruptured implant, before I had my explant,
Hmm.
before I knew about the parasites, like before I knew all this stuff. So I'm wondering I should probably do one again because it's like
Hmm.
to see what's going on now, I would
Oh
imagine.
yeah.
So people should repeat this. It's not like you do it once, you should repeat.
Yeah, yeah, quarterly is best
Okay.
with anything that matters. You look at your books for your business, hopefully at least quarterly, but probably monthly. This quarterly is fine. So every 90 days you do a test. It's very affordable, and then you get an action plan, a game plan where you know what you're missing, you know what you need to work on, you know what's improved. It proves that the work you've done is mattering and you're
Mm-hmm.
making results. And people, as a result, usually, drop weight if they need to drop weight. They
Mm-hmm.
usually
Because you're
stabilize
balanced
and put
then.
on more muscle more easily if they need to do that. We actually had someone, my now friend Kelly Dunlap, I was on her podcast. She said just taking the upgraded magnesium, doing the hair test and other things has reduced her time injured and
Wow.
has allowed her, this was really unique. She just sent me a video testimonial yesterday, um, that she had hurt herself again. And what happens is she's always trying to change her body comp, which is something you're great at and helping people with. And she wasn't really able to until, and I'm just quoting her, she was able to take some of the magnesium and sleep better and then therefore recover faster and then build muscle as a result and not get injured as a result, even though she was increasing her weight each time. And she
Yeah.
used to get injured, and she's like, she had injured her knee and she's like, oh, I'm going to be out for 3 weeks. Great. I'm going to lose, and she thought she was going to lose all that progress. And that didn't happen. The opposite happened. We've helped people qualify for Ironmans, make it to the World Championship when they never had before because their electrolytes were off despite all the
Mm-hmm.
work they were doing. And again, that's not the product you're taking, it's the product you're absorbing. So, or the, yes.
I always learn so much from you. So, okay. So I know for me, I need to start taking the magnesium again. Get to start taking it again. I'm going to start tracking my deep sleep for you, Barton, because first of
Good.
all, sleep, can you just, we even touch on this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Why is deep sleep so much more important than REM sleep?
Mm. Deep sleep is the only phase. I mean, they're both important, but deep sleep is the only phase where your DNA actually gets repaired.
Oh,
And
so
and
that's
that
important.
is and that is what we think of as aging youthfully. And they're like,
So
"Wow,
my deep
you're
sleep right now,
51, 52. You look like you're in your 30s." That's DNA repair. That's deep
got
sleep.
it. So I'm looking
REM
at my deep
sleep
sleep right
is
now, starting this.
consolidation of memory.
So
Yeah.
starting my deep sleep, because I haven't been
Hmm.
taking your magnesium right now, but I'm going to start taking it again. So my deep
Hmm.
sleep right now, so we have a record, has been right around an hour right now.
Okay.
So we're
Cool.
going to track and see what it, because you helped me
Okay.
jump like from like nothing, like 16 minutes to a
Two
lot,
hours.
almost 2 hours. So now we're going
So
to see this difference.
this is a fun. I was just on a meeting with a friend of mine who has a sleep podcast, and one thing she talked about was how the Oura Ring has reset as a new algorithm since you and I initially did that, and it's not as drastic now. So if you go from an hour to an hour and 20 minutes, amazing. Hour and a half, amazing. Any improvement's amazing. It's
Amazing.
less than it used to be. It's less of a jump than it used to be. And it does seem less accurate than it used to be honest. I mean,
Okay.
it like, if you got a great night, in other words, it doesn't necessarily shows
Right.
as drastically like it used to. But I'm glad we do this. A baseline is still a baseline, so we'll
Yeah.
see an
I
improvement.
want to see. So I'm going to redo that. I'm
We
going to
just may not
start.
see the extreme that we
That's
used to see,
okay. I'm
but
going to
we have the screenshots of that anyway
But
that we
if
could
you're
share with
listening and
people.
you're struggling with sleep,
Mhm.
like this is definitely something
Oh,
to
for sure.
try. Like I
Oh my
like
God,
it
yeah.
can't hurt to try. I'm also gonna start taking your upgraded mood because why not? I
Hmm.
want to feel good. Like why not? I'm
Yeah,
gonna go pop a
totally.
little upgraded mood right after this. And then I think
Yep.
I get to also redo the hair test. So,
Hmm.
my audience, those of you listening, many of them are already checking their hormones. They're doing blood, they're doing a Dutch test,
Hmm.
like they're doing these things. So to me, it's like, why not just add in the hair test
Yeah,
while you're doing your other stuff?
sure. I would say that most, exactly, add it in. You don't have to cut it out. And also, look, with hormones, what do you think hormones are built of? Hormones are, again, all elements.
Mm-hmm.
Fats are all elements, proteins are all elements,
Yeah.
carbs are all elements. So it's a combination, and there's a certain transmutation that happens in the body when we take these elements in, where potassium, chromium, magnesium, manganese, all these things become different things in the body ultimately, and they activate certain things that
Right.
wouldn't work if they weren't there. They help your body clean out and detox. If you want to do a detox because you want more energy, better skin, etc. Um, I mean, the way you do it is you start working on heavy metals, and you do that with minerals, most first and foremost.
So if you go to upgradedformulas.com/Natalie Jill, upgradedformulas.com/Natalie Jill, go there specifically because we'll have like some special things for you because you came from here. And
Mhm.
we'll have a list of any specific product that we've talked about today. So upgradedformulas.com, Natalie /Natalie Jill. We'll put this in the show notes as well. Don't just jump right to upgraded formulas because we want to know that you came from me so we can bundle this stuff together for you and
Mhm.
have some special stuff there for you. Thank you so much, Barton. We're going to have you back because I always learned so much from you. You shed light on a lot of things. So thank you for doing this today.
This was so fun. No, it's always such a pleasure to chat with you, to hang and to chat.